Hello and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. It is the 1st of March, which means it is of course time to wrap up all of the books that I read in February. I read 8 books in the month of February. Here they are. I thought we could do what we did last month, which is just go through them. I'll give you guys some thoughts and a rating, of course. I won't lie, there were quite a few on this list that really disappointed me. Ones that I was really excited for that ended up just not being what I was looking for or what I thought they would be. So I think it'll be really interesting to go through them. 8 books in total, let's start. We're actually starting off with what was my favourite book of this month. It is Our Infinite Fates by Laura Stephen. I loved this. I knew that I would. I don't know why it took me so long to pick it up. This is a YA fantasy romance and it just has a really unique and interesting plot. Well, when I say unique, I have seen this a couple of times, but the way that Laura Stephen writes it, I've never seen before. Basically, we follow Evelyn and Arden, who are two people who are basically cursed to have to kill each other in every single life. They keep being reincarnated, and in every single one, they both die before the age of 18, and they basically are just hunting each other throughout time. And when we start this book, Evelyn has absolutely no memory of why this is happening, what kind of happened to them to get them to this point, and Arden does, but he refuses to tell her. So there is a very, very clever plot with this, in my opinion, and I think the fact that it was able to span so many time periods and cultures made it so interesting. Like, they're in a different location every time. They can be any gender when they're reincarnated, totally different time periods. I thought that this was really, really clever, and the fact that we kept jumping like that really kept me engaged, which is what I loved about it. And there is a twist in it that I absolutely did not see coming. Maybe that's just me, but I would absolutely recommend this one. Favorite of the month, I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next up was one that unfortunately was a little bit of a disappointment to me. It is The Sacred Space Between by Kaylee Reed. I was super excited for this one for a couple of reasons. First off, this is one of my favorite covers that I've seen in a really long time. I think that it is so cool. There's something about it that I just really loved, and it really made me want to pick it up. And also, the plot sounded really good to me as well. So if I read a little bit from the back for you, it says, even a saint can be a sinner. Jude is a saint with dangerous magic, exiled by the abbey to a decaying estate on the moors, until gifted iconographer Maeve is sent to paint his icon. Suspecting she's a spy, Jude makes it his mission to get rid of her. That is, until he discovers that Maeve holds the same tainted magic he does, and may be the key to salvation. So what I kind of thought was going to happen going into this one, it was going to be one of those kind of medieval stories that revolve around religion, which, like, even if you look at like The Night and the Moth, something like that, where they kind of do this really clever thing of following their storyline and their plot really well, alongside making commentary about kind of organized religious institutes and how that can be an issue, which I find really interesting. Also, the fact that our main character here is an iconographer, which means she paints icons, I thought was really beautiful. I love art, so I thought that would be a really great addition to this story. And while I think all of those things are true, I just didn't love this one. I felt like it was a little underdeveloped. There was nothing about it that really stood out to me. The characters definitely needed a little bit more development, in my opinion. I kind of felt like I was just reading it to get through it. I wasn't super engaged or like interested in the stakes. And the main issue I had with it was I think that the Abbey in this instance, which is like the religious institution that the two main characters come from, needed more development. There wasn't enough set up about it to make me like resent it or feel any kind of way towards. Obviously, they're not good people, but you need more background when you're gonna, I think, tackle a plot point that big, and we just didn't get it in this one, in my opinion. I didn't hate it, but it definitely wasn't a favorite of the month, and I felt like it just lacked in a lot of ways and just missed potential, which is a bit unfortunate, but there were still parts about it that I liked. I gave this one 2.5 out of 5 stars. Next up, I went with a lit fic to kind of change up what I was reading in the month. This is Chosen Family by Madeline Gray. This is one that I've been wanting to read for a while, so I was excited to finally pick it up. Never read a Madeline Gray book before. She wrote Green Dot, which was quite popular, although I've heard a few people say that they didn't really like it. Haven't read that one, but I thought that this was very interesting. So this is a literary fiction about two best friends who meet in childhood, which is Nell and Eve. And from the very beginning, Eve is in love with Nell, and she struggles with this a little bit in the fact that she is queer and she's kind of coming to terms with that. It is set in Sydney as well. And to kind of give you an idea, it says on the back, books about friendship are not often described as love stories, but this is one. And the perspective of this is kind of from Eve's perspective as she's looking back. So we keep getting kind of glimpses into the present, and in the present, we know that Eve is, and it's a little bit unclear at the beginning, but you kind of learn that she has had this child with Nell, and Nell is no longer in the picture, but you have no idea why, you don't know what happened, and obviously we get through that as the book keeps going. I really enjoyed the first 3/4 of this. I thought that it was really interesting, beautiful character building, which we love to see in a literary fiction. And I really thought that the themes and the issues that Madeline Gray tackled in this one were really well approached. And even though that sounds a little bit dense, I really still enjoyed it. Like, I was engaged in the story. I wanted to know what happened to the characters. The problem is, in the last quarter, I kind of lost it because we know, I'm not going to ruin it for you, don't worry, but we know that Nell left Eve and her daughter because of some terrible thing that Eve does. All I will say is when we do find out what that was, it is so underwhelming and it kind of made this whole book seem so silly. And honestly, like, the miscommunication did get a little bit too much for me. And I know that, like, that's based on, like, real things. People miscommunicate in real life all the time. But this felt like a bit of a stretch in my opinion. I do think that Madeline Gray is a very good writer. And I ended up giving this one 3 out of 5 stars. And I think that's a pretty good indication of the fact that I enjoyed it, but there was a lot about it that I struggled with. Next up, I read The Midnight Shift by Chon Seon-ren. This one looks a bit interesting because it is an ARC edition. A big thank you to Bloomsbury for sending this one over. Archie would like to be in the YouTube video. Come here. Say hi. Say hi. This is marketed as a horror. I'm not sure I 100% agree with that. I don't think it was very horrific. I think it was more like a general fiction with horror elements to it, but regardless, it is translated from Korean and it is the story of vampires, basically. So we have a detective who is investigating a series of suicides at a nursing home in Korea, and another lady who kind of comes into the scene as she's investigating and says to her, this was vampires. And the detective's like, are you insane? Obviously it's not vampires, that's ridiculous. And then we kind of get a couple of other perspectives of that lady in her past and how she came to realize that vampires exist and the bond that she formed with one. The problem that I had with this is that it is very short, which is fine, but it was very simplistic. And I'm not sure if that was a translation issue or if the book itself just was not that complicated to start with. But it honestly felt like I was reading middle grade, but then every now and then there'd be horror elements to it, which I'm just not a huge fan of. There wasn't any depth to this book. Once I'd finished it, I was like, I don't understand what the purpose of that story was. Again, without spoiling anything, it was basically like, we're looking for a vampire. Here's a few vampires that live in this area, and that's pretty much it. Like, I felt that the plot definitely needed some work, and for me to have really enjoyed this, it definitely needed to be a little bit more complex or nuanced or like have a bit of depth to it. This one was not for me. Usually I really like translated fiction. This was an outlier, I think. I rated it 2 out of 5 stars. So I didn't hate it. It just wasn't one that I would recommend to you guys. Next up is one that I'm actually really cut by. I'm super upset that I didn't love this. I think I built it up in my head a little bit too much. It's Nephthys by Rachel Louise Driscoll. This is a historical, slightly romantic, but not really, fantasy sort of. I don't even know how to categorize this book, to be honest, because it's not really fantasy. It's definitely not a romance. It is set historically, and it is based on Egyptian mythology. So I'm pretty sure we're in the Victorian era, and we follow Clemmy, who has traveled to Egypt to try and break the curse that is making her sister sick. And the curse is based around the sisters Nephthys and Isis. If you don't know that Egyptian mythology story, basically they're sisters that end up fighting because Nephthys sleeps with Isis's husband, who is also both of their brothers, but that's a whole different story. Basically, Clemmy has convinced herself that the reason that her sister is so sick is because her father was one of those people in the Victorian era that used to unwrap mummies and basically defile corpses, which is horrible. And him doing that has basically placed a curse on her whole family. So what she has done is taken an artifact that her father has and brought it back to Egypt to try and put it back where it belongs and hopefully cure her sister's illness, which I think is a very, very cool plot. The problem with this is that Rachel Louise Driscoll is a historian and she did an excellent, excellent job of getting all of her history facts correct, all of her mythology stuff really accurate. Her knowledge of ancient Egypt and Egypt in general was excellent, but her storytelling is just not great in my opinion. Like, the fact that she is a historian over an author was very obvious to me. I think that the main issue I had is these characters had no development, had no kind of backstories to them that made me like want to root for them. We needed more character building in this book. And the plot was okay, but it felt very dragged out for how long the book was. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more action, just some more plot points, to be honest. Like, there just wasn't that much going on. Like, she's on this mission and she's on this mission throughout the entire book. Like nothing really progresses for a really long time. And I won't ruin it for you, even though I really want to because I think it's hysterical. But there is obviously an antagonist in this book, and the way that the antagonist kind of is taken out of the story is so lazy and so funny. So if you read this, you'll know exactly what I mean. But basically, this antagonist comes in. Mind you, he doesn't come in until the last like quarter of the book, and then he is taken out of the picture to obviously solve the story and end up with a happier ending. But the way that that happens is just insane. So there were parts of this that I really loved and really enjoyed, and the mythology element to it was beautiful, but the actual story itself is not something that I would recommend. I just don't think it was written very well, to be honest with you. I ended up giving it 2.5 out of 5 stars. If you're interested in Egyptian mythology, it might be a good one just to read for your own interest, but as somebody that reads a lot, I need a story to be well told, and I just don't think that this was. Next up is a book that I read on audio this month. It is Evil Genius by Claire Oshetsky. I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly. This one was really interesting and I really enjoyed it. So it was from the beautiful people at Libro. I'm part of their influencer program. So I have access to a few new releases each month in the audiobook sphere. And this is one of the ones that I chose for February. And I'm so glad that I did. This book was really good. As somebody that loves lit fic with kind of ridiculous elements to it. It's set in the 70s in San Francisco, and it follows our main character, Celia, who is I think she's 19 years old in the story, and she's a worker at a phone company. Basically, she's the person that decides whether like phone lines get taken away from them if they don't pay their bills. Like that's her job, and it's a very dead end job, to be honest, but like there's a lot of gossiping going around in the office. That's kind of how they get through the day. The story is narrated by Celia when she's older, so that becomes very obvious when you read the audiobook because it is an older lady's voice and you're kind of like, she's supposed to be 19, like that doesn't make sense. But yeah, it is being narrated from when she is older, like of her life when she was young, which was good. Like I didn't mind that at all. But basically the plot of the story is she's working at the phone company. There's a guy at the phone company who is sleeping with one of the women higher up at the phone company, and that lady is married, and her husband finds out and shoots the lady and then like his wife and then himself. And the guy that she cheated with survives. Like he's fine. He comes back to work and basically tells everyone the story. It's like, guys, this is what happened. Like it was insane. And everyone is like so engrossed in this story and is like, oh my God, I need to like learn more. I need to know more about this guy, whatever. And Celia is basically, after this experience, she kind of goes, I need something interesting in my life. Maybe I should cheat on my husband or like do something interesting. Like that drama was so much fun because she's married at 19 to an abusive husband who's a lot older than her. And while she does claim to love him, it is very clear that it is an abusive relationship. And the fact that she is just so willing to be like, yeah, I think that I need to do something interesting. Let me go and cheat on him is quite hysterical to me. It is also a kind of queer story as well because she kind of realizes that she may be queer, and that is one of the plot points of the story, which I think was really interestingly and well written. I thought it fit into the plot really well. The thing about this book is that Celia is just kind of insane, but not to a ridiculous extent, and I kind of love that in literary fiction books when our main character is just a little bit insane. It makes it so much fun and such an interesting read. I really enjoyed this. It's very short if you want to give it a go. It wasn't like overly memorable. There was nothing amazing about it, but I would definitely recommend it as a fun short lit fic. Well, maybe fun might not be the right word, but I still think it was fun. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. And I would love to read more by this author because I thought that was really interesting. Next up is one that I read on my Kobo. So I read this as an ebook. It is The Second Death of Locke by V.L. Bovolino. I was super disappointed by this, to be perfectly honest with you. I was so excited to read this book. I have the Illumicrate special edition. A lot of people have told me that they really loved it. It is a lady night story. And it just really did not meet my expectations, which is really my fault. Like, I'm the one that set them. But I also just don't think it was great. So I did like this book. I enjoyed the process of reading it. I thought that V.L. Bovolino did a really good job of world building and creating this beautiful kind of medieval world that is war-torn and still very naturally beautiful. And I really enjoyed that. I also did like our two main characters. I thought that they were quite well developed, nothing insane. But I did feel like we were kind of dropped into the story at a weird point. So we kind of start off in the middle of like a really intense relationship that they have, which was kind of a little bit disconcerting. And you can feel from the start that that's going to be used against you as the reader. If you've read it, you'll know what I mean. You're like, oh my God, this book is going to try and kill me. Like it's going to try and break my heart. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be, or it was like as it could have been. So that's good. Don't worry. It's a bit sad, but nothing insane. The issue I had with this is that there was a lot of politics going on, obviously because it's a war story. There's a lot of politics going on. and a lot that has already happened in this world that is not really explained to us. So while I think that the description and like the natural world was really well described, I struggled with the kind of political side to this. So we were talking about different like rulers and different regions and districts, and they just weren't very well explained, and I was struggling a little bit to keep up. And you really shouldn't have to try that hard in a fantasy book, in my opinion, because if a fantasy book, even a high fantasy, is very well written, you shouldn't be struggling with anything like that. Like, you should be able to follow it quite easily. Like, yeah, you got to concentrate, but it shouldn't be a struggle. And I did struggle. The other issue I had with this book is it almost felt like this should have been a duology or a trilogy, maybe a duology, and that it was just condensed into a standalone just to say that it could be a standalone. And don't get me wrong, I love a standalone book. I would much prefer reading a good standalone than a little bit of a weaker series. However, there was a lot of plot points going on in this book, and at the same time, not that much happened. I don't really know how to explain it to you other than by saying I felt like we jumped around a lot. Like, we started off being like, this is the mission we're going on. Oh, never mind, this is happening. Oh, but now that mission doesn't need to be done, so we're going to go and do this. And I was like, can we please just have a linear idea of what was going on? Because I was like getting whiplash from like what we were doing. But I did really like the characters. I thought the aesthetic was absolutely beautiful, and I would recommend it as a Lady Night story. I am yet to read the other Lady Night stories from last year. I need to read The Everlasting. Have a feeling I'll love it. But and also The Island in the Silver Sea. But this one was a good book, but it did not meet the expectations that I set for it. I can see why people like it. Definitely not a favorite. I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars, which to me is the kind of hallmark of an average or just above average book. And I think that that fits kind of what I think about it quite well. Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed by this. Still good. Still would recommend if any of that sounds good to you. But I was hoping this would be like a 5-star read, and it just wasn't. Moving on to the last book that I read in February, it is The Hunger of Women by Mariosa Castaldi. This is a super random one. I bought this 2 or 3 years ago in the US while I was there. I just saw it on a shelf, and I think that these editions, by the way, are beautiful. They are, what are they called again? I can't remember. They have a name, these particular editions, and I can't for the life of me remember. Anyway, they're beautiful, and the title really got to me, and the description really got to me. So I was really excited to read it, and I did like it. It's just not at all what I was expecting. So just to give you a little bit of an idea, Rosa, midway through life, is alone. At loose end, she decides to translate herself to the flat, foggy Lombardy provinces from her native Naples, and there finds a way to renew herself by opening a restaurant. I expected this to be a novel, and honestly, it's not. So this is translated from Italian. It is set in Naples. And like I said, it's about a middle-aged woman who decides to open a restaurant when she's kind of a little bit lost in life and unsure what she wants to do next. She's kind of like, her daughter has moved out. She's no longer around. She is kind of just by herself. Her husband has passed away, and she loves food. She is an incredible cook. It's how she bonded with her mother. It's how she bonds with the women in her life. And the descriptions of food in this are insanely good. Like, I was so hungry reading this the entire time. Like, don't read this if you're hungry. You'll have to get up and like go make a 3-course meal. It's insane. But the thing that really stands out about this book, and I'm sure that a lot of people would really, really hate, is the structure and how it is written. So this book has no full stops, almost no commas, and 4 chapters in the entire thing. So it is a little bit difficult, and the first probably 10 pages, I was like, this is ridiculous. How am I going to get through an entire book without full stops? Like, it does have capitalization, so you can see where she probably would have put a full stop if she was writing in a conventional way, but she just didn't. But I can absolutely see why she did it. The entire point of this book is to be as stream of consciousness as possible, and that is exactly the effect that she achieves by doing this. So it is difficult to read. I feel like it's easy to skip over parts because you're just like trying to get through everything. And it's definitely not an easy read because it kind of hurts your head a little bit. But I think that because she had a really clear purpose in doing this and choosing this structure, I think it really paid off. I really thought that it was interesting, although I do love books that play with structure and kind of conventions of writing. So I enjoyed this. I can absolutely see why you would not be able to or want to read this. Like, totally understandable. But I will say that I thought that it was quite a beautiful book. I wrote down a bunch of quotes from this one. It also kind of revolves around queer love and just women in every capacity. So like all kinds of love, like platonic, romantic, like between mother and daughter, whatever it may be. All of the women in this book love each other, and I think that was so sweet. And it was really nice to read a queer love story of a older woman, because I feel like we don't see that too often. So that was really nice. I'm not sure if I would recommend it. I would say that if you really, really like experimental literature, you should give this one a go. But please do not blame me if you have a headache after you start reading it. It is really beautiful, and I think that you could definitely learn a lot from it. Like, it is so interesting. But it was a really hard one to rate. I also want to say that I am so impressed by the translator of this book. Obviously, it was translated from Italian, so it's translated by Jamie Richards, and I cannot even begin to imagine how difficult it would have been to translate this book, because there's no full stops. How do you translate something that has no grammar, like from two different languages? It just would have been so difficult. And the fact that it is so stream of consciousness, I like applause for Jamie Richards, everyone. That's insane. And they did such a good job. Like, I really, really enjoyed the writing style of this. I ended up rating it 3 stars, but it's hard to rate. Like, I don't really know how I could have rated this accurately compared to what I usually read, so we're just gonna go with a 3. Those are all of the books that I read in February, and my ratings of them. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing me yap about them. I'm gonna do this every month, and now that I have a new phone, I'm not sure if you've noticed, the camera quality has hopefully gone up a little bit. I am going to try and make some more YouTube videos for you for all kinds of different things. So if you have any ideas or any suggestions of book videos that you would like to see, if you want me to recommend anything to you, please let me know. I can't wait to make more for you guys on YouTube, and I'm also always uploading to shorts if you want to have a look at those. Thank you so much for watching. Have a beautiful month, and I will see you again for another monthly wrap-up video at the end of this month.